Well, good evening. Welcome to our new aviation student webinar. My name is Beth Bierke. I have the privilege of serving as the Associate Dean of our College of Aerospace. And we are excited to have you with us this evening, and we're hoping that we can present some information for you as you get ready to start registering for fall classes, as well as take any questions that you may have. But before we get started, we're going to kind of go around the room real quickly and do some quick introductions, and we may have some other panelists joining us here shortly. So with that, Paula, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, good evening. My name is Paula Bruce, and I am the Chief Flight Instructor out at the airport.
Thanks. Tammy.
Hi, I'm Tammy Walski, the Academic Corps Advisor, assigned to the Odegard School of Aerospace Sciences.
Thanks, Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon, and I am an academic advisor here in aerospace at UND.
Thanks. And Kirsten.
I'm Kirsten Pratt. I'm also an academic advisor here in aerospace.
Great. And so again, this evening, we're hoping to present some information to you for the first half, and then we will definitely be opening it up to Q&A during the second part of the evening. Just a little bit of logistics. I will bring your attention to on the bottom of your screen, there is a tab that says Q&A. Please have that open. If you have questions, feel free to type those in and we will get to those towards the end. But also just rest assured, we're going to be presenting quite a bit of information here up front that will probably go to answer a lot of the questions that you might be having already. So with that, we'll get started with our presentation. So tonight we'll kind of give an overview of orientation. We'll get kind of into the specifics of some of the class registration material. Paula is going to be talking quite a bit about flight training at UND. And then, like I said, we want to make sure we leave about a half an hour at the end for Q&A. So again, this is a chance for us to interact and answer all of those questions that you might have. But I will say we are excited. This is a great time of year. I know you guys are all busy, most of you finishing up your senior year, but we're ramping up, getting ready to welcome you to UND and part of our aerospace family. So one of the things I did want to share right off the bat is we have a whole team of amazing academic advisors as part of our Aerospace Success Center that are here to help you navigate this transition from high school and into college. You met just now Shannon and Kirsten. We're having some technical difficulties. Hopefully we'll get Donna on here shortly. But you can see they're broken up. They'll be advising based on your last name, but also we have some specialties as well. So Kirsten's going to be working with our atmospheric science students. Shannon's going to be working with our UAS, unmanned aircraft systems students. Donna is going to be working with our air traffic management students, and Shane Hilton, another academic advisor, will be working with our online students. We have Luana Upsall. She's a part-time advisor and a flight instructor for us. Some of you may have gotten some emails from her already about flight training in the fall. And we also have Tammy just joined us as one of our core academic advisors, and you'll get to meet Tammy here in a little bit as well as she goes through some of the logistics for registering for classes. But again, this team, they're located in the Aerospace College. Again, ready to help. They'll be the ones putting together some of your advisement sheets that you'll be getting shortly, as well as here to answer any questions you may have during that transition throughout the summer and of course into the fall semester. We do have a website. If you look at the Aerospace College's website on UND's website, there is a whole web page devoted to our Aerospace Success Center. A lot of great resources on there, as well as the information on how to contact each one of these academic advisors. We also have an email that goes to all of us within the Aerospace Success Center. So if you don't know who that specific advisor is yet, you can always email us questions as well. And we're populating a YouTube playlist under the UND Aerospace YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our Aerospace channel. A lot of great videos out there. This webinar will be posted up there as well as soon as we're finished with the evening, probably tomorrow sometime. So if there's something you want to go back and look at, or if one of your family members weren't able to join us, they'll be able to watch it for sure by the end of this week. So real quick, kind of the timeline that we have in place at UND, again, to help you with this transition to the university. Again, Right now, we're gearing up, getting ready for our freshman orientation program, which is really that registration into classes for the fall semester. This is done virtually. It's done through email. You can make advisement appointments with your advisor. Tammy will talk about some other resources we'll have available during this time. But it does start on May 7th. So that's really just a couple weeks away. So some of you may have registered early for orientation and got in right away in May, and it carries through the beginning of July. During this virtual class registration, you will get an advisement sheet that will give you some ideas of classes to register for, but it's going to be your responsibility to go in and actually register for those classes. Then during the summer, in July, starting July 17th through the 24th, we have optional on-campus UND orientation days. Quite a few of them are full, but there are still some slots available in July 23rd and 24th. So I encourage you, if you have not registered for freshman orientation yet, make sure you get on the web and do so, because these dates are filling up. But this is a one day on campus where we bring you in all sorts of different panels and programming. I know we'll have an aerospace panel at the end of the days. Again, just to have some one-on-one conversations as well as answering some of those questions. It is optional though. We know many of you are not from this area, this region. So we know it's not the easiest to get to Grand Forks. So there is an online option as well. So you can still take part and get the content and that information. And then that brings us to probably my most favorite weekend on campus, which is in August 24th, 25th this year. And this is the welcome weekend. This is when we get to finally welcome you onto our beautiful campus. It's very beautiful in August, as well as January, just a little bit different feel. Help you move into the residence halls. We'll have a sandwich feed that Saturday night, so we'll get to meet not only our new students, but our new students' family members as well. And a lot of, again, just kind of that transitional programming to get you ready to kick off when classes start early that next week. So yeah, it starts out with that virtual registration for courses. Welcome you during orientation in July. And then of course, as you move in, you can see in the right, the picture, a lot of our aviation faculty, we volunteer. It's a good workout, volunteer to help move you into your residence halls during that weekend. So we get to meet you right away when you arrive on campus. So we're going to be talking a lot about this orientation, this virtual orientation or registration period, which is when you are going to be picking out and registering for classes for the fall semester. If you haven't found it already, make sure you go on the UND website, and I believe Tammy might be throwing a link up there for you as well in the chat. All of our curriculum, all of our course material is in what's called an academic catalog, and this catalog can change slightly year to year. Our new 2024-2025 catalog is out there now, and this is where you can go and explore all the different academic departments on campus, their major requirements, their minor requirements. Take a look at all the courses that are required. Just so, again, if you're not familiar with how colleges are set up, you need 120 academic credits to graduate in 4 or 5 years. We like to see our students take around 15 credit hours a semester. And so when you take a look at the curriculum for each of the majors, don't get overwhelmed. Realize you can be breaking those courses out likely into 8 or 9 semesters. But as we look forward to the fall, we'll be wanting to pick out enough classes to fulfill about 15 or so credit hours. When we look at our aviation majors, the curriculum is kind of broken out into 3 distinct areas, and those areas, each one is as important as the others. So kind of that foundational grouping of courses are our essential studies courses. Essential studies here at UND, it's also called general education requirements elsewhere. These are the ones that all UND students, no matter what their major is, whether it's aviation, engineering, education, business, they have to take a set course, essential studies courses to fulfill those requirements, about 36 credit hours of classes. And these will be taken all across campus. So a great way to meet other students and build that foundation. We also have our aviation core classes. There's a number of courses in the aviation program that all majors, regardless if you're learning to fly, learning to control aircraft, unmanned aircraft, safety, that they will take. And quite a few of those are in the 100 level or the first year set of courses. Then as you get more branched out into your specific aviation major, you're going to have a set of courses that are going to be detailed very specifically. If you're commercial aviation, those flight courses and advanced aircraft operations courses. If you're an air traffic controller, is going to be the courses in our air traffic control tower or radar lab. If you're unmanned aircraft, it's going to be those UAS specific courses that shape up your major. Again, all three of these groupings of courses are just as important as the other, and you'll take a smattering of them throughout each semester in the program. Essential studies, a lot of the courses you will take this first year are going to be fulfilling a lot of your essential studies requirements. Again, this is required based on our State Board of Higher Education. So all students will take 36 credit hours of essential studies classes here at UND, and they're broken down into 4 main areas. So you'll have 9 credits out of communication, 9 credits out of social science, 9 credits fine arts, humanities, and 9 credits math, science, and technology. What's neat about this is really the area of your degree that you'll get to explore the catalog, explore the different departments. UND has about 200 different programs here on campus to find those courses that interest you. They might be courses that will start working towards a certificate or a minor in something totally unrelated to aviation and aerospace, and that is great. We've got some listings that fit well with aviation, like we have a ESSP, which is our Earth System Science and Policy 160, Sustainability and Society, an important area in the aerospace industry. We also have a space studies program on campus. So a lot of students want a minor in space studies, so they might take that introduction to space studies that first semester to see if they like it and start exploring those courses. We've got Tammy, she can speak more to our music ensembles, but there's a direct correlation with aviation students and the fine arts, especially with our music ensembles. You can see the picture of our Pride of the North marching band. Year after year, about 1/3 to half of our marching band is aerospace students, which is amazing. So if you're playing an instrument now and you enjoy it, bring it with you to college next fall and get signed up for a music ensemble. And that also helps fulfill a fine arts credit within the essential studies curriculum. Tammy, anything you want to add about the music ensembles? Tammy used to direct the Pride of the North marching band and hockey band for years.
Yes, absolutely. It's been somewhat of a misnomer across our campus that it's something that you have to quit once you are done with high school. But please continue to be involved in choirs and bands and orchestras, in art areas, in theater, or in anything that you're interested in. If you're interested in speech or debate, really any of those areas that you enjoyed in high school, bring those with you to college, because we want you to have a nice, well-rounded education here. And almost all of those areas will fit into our essential studies here. And we would love for you to explore the campus outside of our aerospace buildings. And that's where these types of things will come in.
Good, thanks. And again, for more information on essential studies or to see what courses fall underneath those 4 areas, communication, social science, fine arts, humanities, math, science, technology, you can either go to the academic catalog, and there's a link there for essential studies, or on the main UND website, you can search essential studies and it'll take you to their main page and link you to those approved courses as well. But likely many of you are going to be taking quite a few of these essential studies classes this first year, especially this first semester on campus. So explore. A lot of our curriculum is kind of laid out for you to take one after the other. This is the one area where you get to choose the classes that interest you. The aviation core classes, we said there's quite a few of those that students will take the first year. Our first semester, and then the fall, we want all of you registered for Aviation 100. It's called Aviation Orientation, and it's kind of like this session where it keeps this orientation, this transition alive throughout the fall, answering the questions you have, getting you transition successfully in college, connecting you with our industry partners, as well as planning out the future all the way up to graduation. We also, regardless of your major, we require a lot of introduction courses. So pilots will take introduction to air traffic, just like our air traffic students will take introduction to air traffic that first year. Our air traffic students will take introduction to UAS, as well as our pilot students, just like our UAS majors will take that introduction to UAS that first year. So quite a few 100 level courses, regardless of your aviation specific major, you will all take. And it's also okay coming into the program not knowing specifically what you want to do in your career and exploring these introduction courses. You may find out that controlling airplanes is a lot more fun to you than flying the airplanes. You know, it's easy to switch into that program if you desire. And then, of course, the nice thing about our aviation programs and our major courses, these are actually courses you will start within that first year in the program. So like the air traffic management students, you will take that intro to air traffic class that first semester and hopefully the next air traffic class, your spring semester. Commercial aviation, we're going to want our pilot students to be flying within that first year in the program. So again, it's not like you have to wait 2 years to start your aviation major specific classes. You will be starting these classes right away in your first year. So that does bring us to one of our common areas of question is flying in the first year, and when does that happen for our new students? First of all, you guys are aware we do have a cap as far as the number of students that we allow into the aviation program for the flight portion, the commercial aviation. And the reason being is all of our new students, they need to get flying in that first year because they have subsequent flight courses that will take them up to graduation. And so we're only going to allow in enough students that we can successfully complete flying in that first year. Now that first year doesn't mean right away in August. So when we bring in a new class, that class is automatically essentially divided in half. Half will fly in the fall that first year, start in August, half will start in spring, what we call spring January. Or some may decide to start in the summer. Summer is a great time for flight training because our days are long and our weather is beautiful in North Dakota. So specifically for this year, Aviation 102 is our private pilot ground school and our private pilot flight course. We have 210 seats for new students this fall semester, and this is assigned based on your date of deposit into the program. So many of you have received an email from Luana Upsall to fill out a survey of intent on if you want to take Aviation 102 or Introduction to Aviation, and this is where you learn to become a private pilot, essentially coming in with no flight experience and maybe just a little bit of flight experience. If you have not received an email from Luana, most likely you will be flying in the spring semester. So go check your emails. It may have accidentally slipped into a junk mail. She's been sending these out starting mid-March. So again, if you fill that out, great. We've got you in our system. If you didn't get an email, that simply means not a big deal. You'll start flying in January. We have a new course this year, which is new. If many of you came to tour UND and do a visit last year or even earlier this year, this wasn't even an option because it wasn't approved and through the system. So this is a new course, a new option. So it's a little bit different than our 102 assignment for flying. So we created a new course called Aviation 220. It's called Enhanced Basic Attitude Instrument Flying. Essentially, if a student comes in with their private pilot certificate, they can not take Aviation 102, they'll jump into this Aviation 220, which is actually starting that instrument and commercial flight training. All right, so in the fall, this is a new course, a new process, we only have 60 seats available for this course. And this is being assigned based on completion of your private pilot certificate. So likely if you've said you're going to have your private pilot certificate before the fall, you've also got an email saying upload your private pilot and your medical certificate to this link, and then you'll be put in the system. I last checked, we still have about 15 seats available in 220 for the fall. If you don't make it in for the fall, great, finish that private pilot, and we'll see you starting that 220 in January. So, we anticipate having, as many seats that we need in the spring to accommodate those students that are coming in with their private pilot. One thing I will say with coming in with your private pilot, we have a large number of you that say you're going to have it in August. Realize if you haven't really started flight training yet, if you haven't soloed yet, it is very difficult to complete your private pilot training in the summer. Not because you're unmotivated or anything like that, but what happens is that end of your private pilot, you do need to take a practical test with what's called a designated pilot examiner, and they tend to be in short supply around the country and often times have large lead outs to those check rides. So just be cautious. If you barely started, you may want to stop flight training outside of UND and just wait and come here next year and do your private pilot with us. We're set up to handle that just fine. We get a lot of questions about flying in the fall, so starting in August versus flying in the spring, starting in January. And there's pros and cons to each. It seems like By and large, everyone is eager, they're excited to fly, so they want to fly first thing in August, and that's great. We love that enthusiasm. But to be honest, I've done a lot of research in this area with student success and persistence. And if I were to go to college again, or if I had a son or daughter going into the program, I think I'd encourage them to start their flying in the spring semester. I know I would in January. Because what that allows you to do is to focus that first semester, which college is new. College is a lot different than high school. You're moving away from home, you're on your own, figuring out how to manage your own time. So by not having that flight training starting right away in August, it allows you to transition to college more successfully without that added pressure and demand of the flight training. So it allows you to figure out how to manage your time. You have more time available to join clubs, take in other campus events, join the bands. You can also plan for your winter break travel a lot more easily. So for example, the first day of class, you'll get a syllabus and each one of them will tell you when your final exam is. So then you write them down and you know exactly what time you can either book a flight or a train or whatever to get home for winter break. Whereas flying, lots of times our students don't know when that final check ride is going to be. And so they tend to stay a lot later in December. It also gives you that good solid academic foundation. Also, when we look at our flying, so in the fall flying, August, September, great weather, October. When we get to November, December, we have a nickname for November is no fly November. It gets difficult to complete those flights. So you're kind of starting out in good weather, going into bad weather in the fall. In the spring, January is typically good weather because it's cold and it's clear. February is good weather. It is just getting better as the spring semester continues and we get into April and May. And so again, that allows for our students more success in their flight courses in the spring versus sometimes what we see in the fall. And again, if you're in that boat of trying to finish your private pilot training prior to getting here, by starting 220 in the spring semester, you're still going to be well ahead where you would have been how our program was set up in previous years. You would have to take 102 one semester, the next course, and then be there. So again, it's set up well for those 220 students coming in to fly starting in January versus August. All right, real quick, I'm going to run through just some of the class selection and then Tammy's going to get into the details on how to register for classes. So coming in with college credit, when you sign up for orientation, it's going to ask you some of these questions. Know what you have. I know many of you, if you're taking AP classes right now, you don't know, or you probably haven't taken the test yet, or how you'll perform, but know that you took an AP bio class and that you might get credit for that. So you don't sign up for an extra science class you don't need. Start putting a list together of those so that, again, you see where they fit in your curriculum and you can make sure that they transfer into UND. Here's just a quick look for those of you that are going to be flying that first semester, whether it's 102 or 221. Those students will come in, that's 4 or 5 credits right there. We'll also have them sign up for Meteorology 110 is our lab science class. And of course, that Aviation 100 orientation class. So right there, there's 10 credits detailed out for what you're going to have to take. Not a whole lot of room to look at those essential studies courses to pick up to get to that 15 or 16 credits. And this information will come to you in these advising sheets as well. Helicopter students, we have about, I think 20 of you signed up for helicopters for the fall. You'll do the private pilot as well, just a little bit different course number looking in. And then the other majors not flying, you have a lot more room to add those essential studies classes. So probably about 12 credits after you take the aviation orientation and then at least one other aviation class like intro to ATC or intro to UAS. Air traffic management students, we want you to get in and take that intro to ATC right away to make sure you enjoy it and answer your questions. Just like UAS students, we want you to come in right away, take that intro to UAS class because that's what you're excited about, and then pick up those other essential studies classes. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Tammy, who's going to talk more logistics about registering for classes. Tammy.
Great. So if you have not already done so, we would like you to make sure that you are in the orientation program reservation system. And the link is on your screen there, but I will also paste it in the chat so that you can copy it out of there as well. Just a second. To make sure that you are fully registered and that all the information that you need comes from UND to you. This system is our way to make sure that we get you into everything that you want in the fall. If you are bringing in credits, as Dr. Bierke said, be sure that even if those credits are just in progress or you don't have scores yet, give us the information in the system of what you are looking at. If you have AP tests that you haven't taken yet, or you are just guessing on what scores you might have, you're not actually going to give us the score that you might have. What we do is we assume that you're going to get a 3 on the exam. And then afterward, we reconcile that. This is just so that we can figure out what your fall classes will be. And then by the time we get around to your spring registration, we will have the actual score and we can work from there. So this is just our best way to make sure that we're not double counting, or we're not giving you a class in the fall that you may have already completed. Additionally, there's a whole page of information on classes that you might be interested in. If there's something you want, or you think you might want, or a favorite subject from high school, please give us that information, because the more that you tell us that you want to do, the better we can tailor things to your direct interests. You don't need to tell us, I'm interested in taking courses for my major. We know that. But if you have an extreme interest in Greek mythology, or you've always wanted to take a philosophy class, or you like political science, or you may want to minor in a language, please tell us those information, because once we have that information, we can help tailor what we decide to help you with, so that we can make our suggestions match what best fits you as a student. Because we really can only work with the information that you give us. On your virtual class registration date, which you will pick directly in that orientation system, around 10 a.m. Central Time, and it doesn't necessarily have to be directly on the dot at that time, you will receive an email from und.advising@und.edu with a list of the suggested courses for registration and detailed instructions on how to register. There will also be a link to a video so that will point you click by click on how to complete that registration process. Can you click to the next screen so we can give them a little bit more information on what that looks like? So this is approximately what that screen looks like. They are changing up a little bit what the colors will look like, but in general, it will give you a list of the class. It'll give you, like, for example, on this first line, it says AVIT 102, Introduction to Aviation, and there's some information directly under there. Please register specifically for a class number. If you have that much extra information there, please follow it, because that's your advisor telling you this seat is reserved specifically for you. If you try to go into a different section, you will have an error come back. If you have something listed, for example, where it says under ESSP 160 could also take, that means that you have some options. You could choose something else. If you really would rather not take the sustainability and society class, you could swap that out for a different essential studies or social science requirement. But so if you have flexibility, it will tell you on that sheet if there's flexibility to go with it. If it says a must on it, then that is something that you should take. If you do have questions, though, we are definitely here to help you. And I will give you more information on exactly how you will be, exactly how we'll be there to help you with in our next slide. So registration, while we do send it out at 10 o'clock that morning, that does not mean that you have to register by 10:05 that morning. It is in your best interest to try to get it done sometime that week. Most students will try to get registered on the day of their registration date, but it is not vital that you get done, so get it done immediately. The registration itself will take around 30 minutes to complete. Many students will have it done in much less time. You will have a chance to generate your schedule, choose what times many of the classes are, and you take as much or as little time as you want to choose the schedule that works best for you. If you do need any changes to aviation classes, those do need to be approved by the advisor, and the information for the advisor will be listed on the sheet. So please do reach out to that advisor if you want to change an aviation course. If you want to change anything that's not an aviation course, so for example, if your advisor has suggested that you take Psychology 111, which is Introduction to Psychology, and you don't want to take it, you may freely swap out that class without reaching out to an advisor first. And again, if there is a specific section listed, please be sure to select that specific section. Otherwise, you're going to end up with errors and you'll need to reach out to figure out how to resolve them. And it is best to try to keep any changes within the same general category, but we do have quite a bit of flexibility within those essential studies courses. So we do have an additional set of information. One of the main requirements that is coming up for you, I'm ready to switch. Thank you, Dr. Gerke. Math placement is the next main course of information. If you are suggested to take a math placement exam, or we have suggested that you take college algebra or mathematics in society or pre-calculus on your on your sheet, or we suggest that you take Math 98 Intermediate Algebra. Those are set based on where you have placed into our math. If you would like to change that placement, you may take our math placement exam. Information for that is included with your the sheet that's sent to you. It's also included on that orientation page that I sent out. What is required for the degrees is for air traffic management, you must take either Math 107 Pre-Calculus or Math 110 Mathematics and Society. And other than that, they all atmospheric sciences does require the calculus sequence. Aviation safety and operations does not have a specific math sequence, and the rest of the aerospace majors do require college algebra or mathematics and society. Mathematics and society is more of a practical math or hands-on math, what you would use more on a daily basis, less of a theoretical math basis. If you are considering at any point switching to aviation management or doubling on anything that's in the business school, Math 103 college algebra is specifically required unless you go further and want to take Calculus 1, which will waive you out of Math 103. But pre-calculus will not waive you out of college algebra for the business school. If you have any questions on that, you would need to speak with either me or with one of the business advisors. So that's just a big note that if you have business in the back of your mind, college algebra is your place. We do recommend that you take that placement exam at least 2 weeks prior to registration date. If possible, that's to allow you that if you do want to take it again, it gives you time to get through some preparatory options and be able to take it again. But realistically, if you take it at least 2 days before you do your registration, we will have the score in the system and be able to help you with that. If you did bring in ACT or SAT scores as listed on the screen, or if you are transferring in any dual credit math, including advanced placement, you don't need to worry about any of these. And I do see that a question just came in that I will address to the full screen. For commercial aviation, you may pick either Math 103 college algebra or Math 110 mathematics and society. There's absolutely no difference to commercial aviation unless, again, you would be thinking possibly about the management route, in which case college algebra is the important option. So questions, how do you get the courses you want? As I mentioned earlier, if there are specific areas in which you're interested, please just tell us. If you tell us what you want, we'll give you what you want. That's because this is your college career. This is what you want to do. We're not going to take the courses, you are. So please tell us what you would like to take. Some of the examples that people may not think about right off the top of their head in fine arts, in addition to the bands that Dr. Bierke spoke about earlier, we also have intro to creative writing as an option. We have acting as options. We have plenty of art classes. We have a lot of choices there. Humanities, this fall, we're offering the Ojibwe language for the second time ever. We also have classical mythology, and then we have a historical detectives class where they actually go through and do some CSI type things, but with a historical spin. In the social sciences, we have global health, we have global perspectives, we have sustainability and society, which has been mentioned a couple of times. Math, science, technology, we have a little bit outside the box options with the computer science options, space studies, as has been mentioned right within our college. And then the fundamentals of nutrition class has been a fairly popular option as well. You will get many math, science, and technology credits already within the aerospace majors, but you will still need at least one class if you are not bringing in something outside of your math and your atmospheric sciences. If you are an atmospheric sciences major, you can ignore most of what I just said. We'll take care of that on your own. But what if you need help? Many people who are starting the registration process, you might be nervous, something might be an issue, or you just might run into some problems. That's just fine, absolutely normal. Things happen. You can contact your advisor. Directly on your course sheet, it will give you your advisor's name and their email address and a way to contact them. But if you have a quick question right on that day, we will be holding an open Zoom, actually not a webinar, a Zoom meeting, where you can just jump into the Zoom link right there, and we can answer brief questions right there. We can help you if you have a permission issue, if you just don't like that there's some kind of time conflict, if you have something that's just not working out. If you have a question that's going to take 5 or 10 minutes to answer, jump into that Zoom, and we will definitely help you with that. If you say, I don't like anything that's on my schedule, that's something that's more appropriate. Reach out to your advisor. If they need to completely wipe and start over, that's going to take more than 10 minutes. But if you have a question that's around 5 or 10, we can definitely help you right away that day between 10 and noon on your registration date. We will be available. And I think I'll hand over to Paula with the flight training questions.
Thank you. So this evening, I will just give us some basic information about our flight training and our flight labs. So first, starting off, every student is assigned to a flight lab for each course that you are going to take. And then depending if your flight lab is in the fall or spring, you'll either be assigned a Monday, Wednesday, Friday lab at a specific time, or you're going to pick a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday lab. We are still open for flight training on Sundays, but that is like an optional day to flight train as well as your assigned days of the week. And then during the summer, we run a little different flight lab where it's a 5-day-a-week lab. So starting from Monday through Friday, and you're assigned, again, a very specific lab. So maybe, for example, a 9 a.m. And then all 102 students coming in, so this is our very first flight course, would need to have a 3-hour gap in your schedule during daylight hours. And that's how long our flight training will be. Our other flight schedules are typically like a 2.5-hour type of a lab, just because we don't need as much time in the other courses. The big thing just to advise everyone is that your time and schedule management is very important when it comes to this flight lab, and that for consistency in trying to get the course done within that semester, we try to ensure that you are ready and prepared to go to each flight lesson.
So Paula, real quick, a question came up. Will 220 students receive a flight slot as well?
So a 220 students will get a particular flight slot. So you're going to start working on, we kind of have a transition into UND policies or procedures, or basically you're going to say the UND way that we're going to teach you. Maybe that's been slightly different than some of your Part 61 training, and we're going to start working on building your commercial hours and some of like basic attitude flight training during that AVIT 220 lab.
I'll just add real quick, because Tammy mentioned it briefly. So when you get that advising sheet, if you are flying 102 or 220, we will have information on that advising sheet about your flight lab as well. We are going to pre-assign those, so you will know if it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday from 8 to 11, you're going to block out that time in your schedule so you don't put another class during your flight lab. So that will be pre-assigned and part of that advisement sheet that you will get from us during the process.
And then each student is going to be assigned to a primary flight instructor for that entire course. And then they will be responsible for giving that training. There will be some changes. So I do like to note that if your flight instructor is sick, or if they're gone on a vacation, there can be coverage that is available anytime that your primary flight instructor is not available during those like 3-day-a-week flight labs. And as far as our flight training itself, we fly the Piper Archer. So we will have flights assigned, whether it's in aircraft. We do have simulators. So some of our lessons are going to be conducted on campus in the ATVs. And then we have a few lessons in each course that are ground lessons. So those just consist of a non-flying event, or sometimes they're referred to as briefings. Each lesson, so depending, doesn't matter if we're in the airplane, ATV, or the ground lesson, every single lesson has a set completion standard. So that has to be met before we can move on to the next lesson. So it's really important that each student comes prepared and they complete their homework assignments that they were given on their previous lesson. And the big thing just to note here too is that every student learns at a different pace. So don't compare yourself to other students. It's just kind of like picking up a new hobby or learning a new sport, that it just takes a lot of practice and time to develop a new skill.
So real quick, just to jump in, Paula, because there was a question about helicopters. So helicopters, it's very similar. You will be assigned an instructor and a time slot as well for helicopter training.
And the big thing just to note here too with our flight training is that academic classes are very different than the flight training schedule. With an academic class, we know the time that your class starts. It's defined as a starting time and a stopping time. It's very easily graded as far as exams and homework, and that obviously classes are going to be conducted in all types of weather. Versus flight training, like I already just mentioned, you know, every student's going to learn at a different pace. The schedule is going to be different. Some lessons require night operations, and so we might be having to vary our flight times. Some of our lessons are cross countries, and so we need to have more than that 3-hour gap. And like sometimes it might be a 6-hour requirement, and maybe if the only time that's available, we might have to do those on the weekends. And so again, we just have to be very flexible based off of what training is going to be required. And then we have to meet those completion standards before moving again to do something a little bit more complicated, because as we progress within the particular lessons, they're just going to get more complex and have to keep building on previous knowledge. The other thing just to note, we are located in North Dakota, and so we do have some bad weather in the winter months. And so again, we just have to be flexible with what weather we're handed. And then also with flight training, it's unlike class, like we can't show up if we cannot go fly, if a student is sick or has any different types of injuries. And so things like that could delay progress.
So real quick, Paula, a question came in for you. If all required flight time is not achieved because flights get canceled due to weather, what happens? Are students expected to stay through the summer to finish?
Well, I'll kind of answer the first part of that question. If we are canceled due to weather, so a lot of times we do have it built in for the 3 that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example, flight lab. And that a lot of times we might get canceled out for 1, but a lot of flight courses we will try to get an extra day in to get it accomplished. So again, like maybe that's a Saturday, maybe that's a Sunday, if we're on that Monday, Wednesday, Friday type of a schedule. So I always try to tell students that the weekends are not off, even when you have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday flight lab, because maybe we want to utilize that weekend for a makeup lesson. And that the best advice I can tell a student is that we have templates to help them see, are they staying on track? Are they slightly starting to fall behind? And then there may be days too that we need to try to fit in more lessons to get back on track, so we don't have to stay over the summer to play catch up. And the biggest thing, again, I can't stress it enough, is flexibility. Trying to be here during that entire flight or that entire semester to get more flights accomplished if we are given bad weather. This is a QR code. I mean, there's so much information when it comes to flight training. So please utilize this QR code to give you more information to help prepare you for information such as FAA medicals, all of our TSA requirements, what headsets we recommend. And coming into the fall semester, we are going to start requiring an iPad mini, and all of our dimensions or the qualifications for that can be listed on this website.
Good. So that was a lot of information, I know, in the last 45 minutes, but we do about 15 minutes. So we definitely want to open up. We've gotten some great questions already coming in through that Q&A button on your screen, but happy to take some more questions if you have them. So one question in here, Paula, are check flight fees included?
Yes, our check fees are included. It's not like a Part 61 FBO where you are charged a different rate to have a DPE. It's still the standard rate, just like for every lesson.
Oh, good. I know Donna and Shannon and Kirsten, you guys have been answering some questions on the back. Any questions you want to bring forward that we could discuss in the live group as well that you saw come through? Although I did just get a question on the Q&A. So is there a recommendation for a specific laptop for aviation students, or will any be fine? I'll answer from the laptop and then I'll throw it over to Paula as far as iPads on the flight side. So any specific laptop that works for you works for us. I will caveat that by saying that as an aviation faculty member, all I have is a PC. So if you are a Mac user like my son is, as long as you submit your assignments in something I can open, ideally a PDF or a Word document's even better. You know, when you submit your work that way, I need to be able to open it. If you submit it in something Mac specific like Pages, I can't open it. It's very hard for me to grade that for you. So whatever you prefer, just realize most of the time when you're submitting work for courses, it's going to have to be something like a Word or a PDF file. But Paula, do you want to talk again briefly on the iPad?
And then as far as different iPads, all we recommend is that you stay to, it doesn't have to specifically be an iPad, but a smaller electronic device that will fit on your knee when we fly. A regular size iPad, for example, is too large and it's going to get in the way of the flight controls. And it's very hard to manage in the airplane because we have a certain size pockets that they need to fit in. And definitely we cannot have anything with like a keyboard that is attached to it. So it just, again, my personal preference would just be like the iPad mini. And then we will get you access to, we use ForeFlight here, and then that would be part of something that you would get.
So Paula, to kind of touch on that, another student asked, the website talks about the knee board compatible with an iPad, but are they able to use the suction cup mount for the iPad instead?
As far as like different mounts, we don't have any like set requirements. So just as long as it is secured, that is acceptable for us. So yes, the section type ones are fine.
Good. Let's see. There is a question about helicopter students and a headset. So I will answer, but Paula, correct me if I'm wrong. So there is a different type of headset for helicopter students. It's a headset with a single plug versus a dual plug. So if you are a helicopter student, hopefully you've already been in touch with our chief helicopter instructor, Wes Vandell. You can find his contact information on the website as well, and he can give you all of those specifics too. You will need a headset, but different than what we post out there for the fixed wing students. So Tammy, there's quite a few questions coming in about the, getting college credit in high school. I know I've seen you guys kind of frantically answering some, but there's other ones coming in about AP scores coming out. Do you want to touch on some of those questions you've been answering? Again, to clarify, bringing in credits, when do they post, how to make sure they post, why not to duplicate classes?
Absolutely. So number one, as long as you tell us that something is coming, then we'll make sure they don't get duplicated in the first semester. Unfortunately, sometimes it's a little bit of a lengthy process if it's something that has not come through our system before. So the shortest answer is if the course has ever been evaluated by UND before, all we need is your final transcript to show that you've passed it, and you will get the credit, and we will tell you what the course is evaluated at UND. If it has not, then we send it to the department and we ask, what does this course count for at UND? If the department needs further information, we may need a syllabus from your previous institution. Regardless, you will work with your advisor and we'll make sure that this gets taken care of. And you won't need to take that other course unless the department comes back and says, this is not the same as our course that's here. In general, this is a non-issue. It just takes a little bit of time for that final transcript to get here and for us to make that final evaluation. In the short term, for the fall, we just ignore any classes that look like they might be equivalent and move on, so that we have plenty of time to make those types of evaluations. So time is on your side. We are just fine. Just once you get those final transcripts from your dual credit institutions, and once you get your final AP scores, just have them sent to us and we're in good shape. We have a full transfer team ready to help make sure that all this happens. And a lot of them run right through me. So we'll be sure to get it all taken care of for you.
Good, thanks. I know I did see a question that got answered through typing, but the question was about the UAS program. So in our UAS program, it does still require manned flying because our industry still, the UAS industry still requires that. And there's sort of two different tracks you can take. One is more of a low altitude, smaller UAS track that does require a private pilot and an instrument rating. And then there's a larger UAS track as well that requires that commercial pilot certification, all single engine. So there is flying that is attached to that UAS major as well. Again, if you're UAS major though coming in, you're definitely going to start that flying in the spring because we want you to get into that intro to UAS and start exploring that major first, and then adding on that flying. Paula, there is a question about insurance. Is liability and hull insurance included as part of the program?
So if you are a current flight student and in an assigned flight lab, then yes, you are included under our insurance program.
Good. All right, so even if you start flying in the fall, is it recommended you continue flying over the summer? I'll talk about that from an academic standpoint. There's a lot of great things students can do in the summer. They could do internships, they could do study abroad programs. You don't need to stay here year round and just fly. It's good to take a break from the flying and explore other things. Maybe get a part-time job in the summer working, in an airport back home or things like that. Many of our students will attempt to get residency, North Dakota residency, if you're from out of state for tuition purposes. Those students tend to stick in Grand Forks then for the summer. And so we do offer flight courses year round, but the summer there is kind of more demand for flying than we have slots available. So again, encouraging us to think of other things that we can do as well during those summer months. But Paula, do you want to touch a little bit about summer flying?
Yeah, and then like Beth mentioned, it's not mandatory to fly. I think on average, most students probably stay 2 summers out of their entire track here at UND. And it's more of a case-by-case situation. If you do find yourself falling behind with the flight training, then I would advise to stay and try to get caught back up. And then if you're ahead of schedule, it's a great time, like Beth mentioned, maybe to try to do something else in the aviation world.
So a question about the electronic logbooks, Paula. Can they also have a paper logbook and log on both just to have it? Or what? What's your take on that? Electronic logbook, paper, can they do both?
Absolutely, you can do both. It's your preference. So starting this summer, we are going to mandate an electronic logbook if you're not currently using one. And we can help you with that transition process. But if you'd still like to use a paper one, we will run both through our program.
Good. So Tammy, I see you're answering a question about residency. Do you want to put in the link to all the residency stuff in the chat for everyone if they have questions about that? And that's definitely something that we spent quite a bit of time during the July orientation dates kind of talking through. But many of our out-of-state students will do that. And after living in North Dakota for 12 months, you do qualify for in-state tuition. Paula, do they need to come with something like an E6B flight computer?
So we're slowly transitioning to all electronic. There are your very first flight course, if you're still going to, you do not have your private pilot certificate and you're aviation 102, then yes, we still need the mechanical E6B. Any other flight course after that, we're going to do all of our flight planning electronically. And again, typically we're going to be using ForeFlight.
Good. What about which electronic logbook, Paula? Do you want to mention those, the two that we have deals with?
So I'm going to say the majority of our students do everything on ForeFlight. The second one that we recommend is going to be Logbook Pro.
And there's a question about funds needed in our Ames account for the semester guidelines for aviation 220. So I think Tammy did have the cost sheet pulled up. So we do have a financial aid representative for our college. She will be present during our orientation days in July, and she's also always accessible for students as well. The Ames account, you don't need to have funding in there until you start flight training, so not until August. So again, we do ask that students have those funds lined up, but then there'll be, we'll get the word out first day of ground school classes to how to put money into that flight account. We are still working on those guidelines for the aviation 220 because it is a new course. We've never taught, usually we use all of our existing data and averages to figure out flight costs each semester. Well, this is a new course. So again, it's all part of the instrument commercial curriculum. We're just not sure how many hours are going to be needed as you transition into our UND Aerospace and policies and procedures. But we'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks or so and getting that on the website. But again, no need to have anything into your Ames account for flying until you're actually heading out to the airport to do that. And we have a whole team that comes into the classes in the start of the fall semester to get you squared away. We've got time for about 2 more questions or so. Paula, this question is right up your area. What percentage of UND flight graduates are hired as CFIs? Knowing that, we've been here for over 20 years, it's a very cyclical kind of answer to this, but can you share with that? Paula just got done hiring a bunch of new flight instructors for the summer, so it's fresh on her mind.
So yesterday we finished up our hiring for the summer semester. We had 183 applicants for the position, and we ended up taking 42 total flight instructors, and we currently have on staff 250 CFIs. So we can see that that's only 25% of the applicants that applied to get the position.
So good. And one last question we could take live. And again, if we don't get to your question this evening, because we only have time for one more, again, I can't say enough. Many of these questions are being answered by our Aerospace Success Center team. So feel free to reach out to them. Again, you can look at your last name on the website and find the right advisor that way, or you can email our Ask account. We definitely want to get your questions answered. We also are looking forward to having you on campus in July, hopefully, and being able to spend more time with you. Question that's coming in, again, the 220 is a lot of questions here in the group. So is there an absolute firm deadline for the 220 to be completed, or the private pilot, sorry, to be achieved before getting enrolled in that aviation 220? Again, as we're developing, as the aviation faculty approve this new course, working with flight operations and developing this curriculum, it is a great change. Before, our students coming in with their private pilot license had to take a whole semester taking the private pilot ground school over again, and then they'd start the next semester in the spring into their instrument, their aviation. It was 221 class that they would take. So this 220 is taking out 5 credits that used to be required in the curriculum and kind of enhancing that 221 class. So again, if you're taking it in the fall versus taking it in the spring, you're exactly where you would have been in last year in the process of coming in with your private pilot certificate. We are enrolling into that 220 based on students submitting their completed private pilot certificate and medical. That's how we're filling those slots, because we know many of you are currently working on it, which is great. But we can't fill the slots with students that aren't actually done with it, because start the fall semester, we'd have all this shuffling and financial aid to be all messed up for all the students. So we decided to admit into 220 based on submitting that private pilot certificate and medical. You can continue to submit that no matter when you finish, even if it's into the August, September timeframe, and we'll be continuing to collect that and creating a priority list when it comes to spring registration into 220 as well. We'll also be able to assess a lot better students in the fall semester, probably during that Aviation 100 orientation class. What's the demand? What is the actual need for 220 in the spring? And how can we try to accommodate all of those students that need that for the spring semester? I'll be honest. I've been here a long time, and like the numbers trending for that coming in with the PPL is much higher this year than we've ever seen before in the past. We used to have 50 students total coming in with their private, so our 60 seats of 220 would have been more than enough. Again, we still do have 17 seats for that, but for whatever reason, which is great, young people are getting excited to start learning how to fly, younger and younger. That's just kind of changing the dynamics as students come in, but we're good at adapting to change, and we will make sure we'll collect data at the start of the fall and get all of our new students in a flight course sometime in that first year. So again, I do want to thank you all for taking the time this evening to join us during this webinar. I know I said it earlier, but we are so excited to welcome you into our aerospace family, starting now and through the summer and into the fall. Again, as a registration date and time that you signed up for, make sure you'll expect that advising sheet coming out. Reach out to your academic advisor if you've got questions or want to go through that. But again, as soon as you get that sheet, don't hesitate too long. Start registering for those classes and getting into the classes that you want. And again, I encourage you, your homework between now and then, explore the academic catalog, find some of those exciting, neat essential studies classes that have nothing to do with aviation. Take advantage of UND's full liberal arts campus. And start making a list of classes that you would want to take to fulfill those essential studies classes. Again, thank you, and thank you to our panel for being with us this evening as well. And have a great night.